recruitment at the same time. And if we haven't met before, I'm Jen, co-founder of Augusta, and I'm super excited that we have Regina from Asuncion Business Solutions here. She's the owner and CEO. And I'm going to introduce her properly in just a minute. But very excited to talk about this topic today because there are so many people out there, I think, who are overwhelmed with the day-to-day tasks of running their home care agency. And especially when it comes to recruiting and scheduling, there's always this question of how do you actually make the time in the day to be to do the things that you want to do and that you will know that you know will help grow your business, and at the same time have a super efficient process for doing that. So that's a lot of what we're going to explore today, and very excited about that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Regina to you. If you haven't talked with Regina before, she is awesome. Her company is very, very cool, and super excited to have her here. She, as I said, is the CEO and founder of Asuncion Business Solutions. They specialize in virtual assistants for home care agencies. And since 2008, believe it or not, she's been in the healthcare world, doing with various healthcare expertise in operations and marketing to provide innovative solutions. So she's got a depth and breadth of experience in our industry that's super, super valuable. Right now, she's based in Denver, Colorado, and goes around the industry, the country, all different places, educating home care agency owners on streamlining their operations and driving their business's growth through virtual assistants. And just as a fun fact, in her free time, she enjoys traveling, snowboarding, camping, and spending time with her dogs. I love dogs. Thank you so much for being here, Regina.
You're welcome. Honored.
Yeah. So just one more quick note before I let you take it away and take over the screen sharing. And I'm sure everybody on this meeting has been on a whole bunch of Zooms or Teams and all that good stuff. But just to reiterate, you've got the Q&A button in your Zoom bar screen thing. So please use that. And I'm going to collect the questions as Regina is talking, and then towards the end, we'll get to as many of them as we can. And at the same time, after Regina presents, I'm going to share some information about how AI recruitment really makes a difference in the process. So that's also coming up as well. And very excited to have everybody here. And it will be recorded, so if you miss something, you'll be able to check out the recording afterwards. It'll be up on our website a couple days later, and I'll email it out to everybody. So with that, and hi, Sandy, great to have you here. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Regina and let her take it away. So I'm going to stop my screen share and send it over to you.
Great. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know in this world that we live in, time is our most valuable asset. And the fact that you guys are spending it with us means a lot to us. So let me share my screen real quick. Jen, can you see it okay?
It's perfect.
All right. So I want to start by telling you guys a quick story. Back in 2022, or no, back in 2020, I was hired to help start another home health and hospice agency here in Denver, Colorado. But as Jen mentioned, this is actually the third company I've helped start, because back in 2008, I started a home health and hospice agency, and we ran that for about 11 years and sold it in 2019. So 2020, I'm hiring, it's in the middle of the pandemic. Everyone is quitting, everyone is leaving. Things are getting shut down, just pure chaos. And a lot like you guys, I traded in what I thought was my 40 hours week for the nonstop, never-ending work. I wore every hat, I solved every problem, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this. I kept asking myself, if I don't do it, who will? Right? And so for 16 straight months, I worked like that. My health took a hit, my relationships were falling apart. I mean, I'm surprised I'm still married. And honestly, I didn't know what joy really felt like anymore. Every weekend, every holiday, it's on your plate. Then my husband said, this is enough, Regina. We need to spend time together. I need to take you away from all of this. So he packed us up and he dragged us to Dollywood. And so for the first time in over a year, I tried to unplug, but I really couldn't. So before that, I hired someone 3 weeks before I left. I hired someone to help me with scheduling. But the thing is, it wasn't going very smoothly. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, calls, texts, questions. The problem was my hire didn't really respect my boundaries, and she created more problems than she solved. Then in the middle of it all, she texted me, Regina, I'm going to go to lunch. And she never came back. And so this is how it ended up for me. I was so frustrated and so disappointed that this happened, because I thought this girl cared about the company. I thought we had a great relationship. And so this picture, my kids took this of me because I passed out on a bench in Dollywood because I was crying so much and I was just so overwhelmed. And I hated this picture because I knew that I was constantly sacrificing moments with my loved ones, with my family, because I knew that if I didn't fill a shift, that meant someone else's family wasn't going to get the care that they needed. But you guys, this breaking point was also my turning point. I realized that delegation wasn't something I had failed at, but it was a skill that I had to learn, right? And I'm sure that's why you guys are in this webinar, is because we need to learn how to delegate in a way that actually works. It's not about just handing off tasks to someone. It's about finding the right people and trusting them to carry the load. So this is about this mastermind, this webinar is about delegation, not just to people, but also using systems like Augusta, because that's how you scale this. Work hard all the time, confusing being busy with productive is only going to get you so far. If you want to scale your home care agency in 2025, we have to understand that you have to have people and processes. So, and it's about understanding that when you delegate, it's not about losing control. It's really about understanding how to make time for what really matters. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk to you guys comes from 3 key sources. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of business books. I have my MBA, but also getting into the rooms with the smartest people I can find. Not just physical rooms, but webinars, Zoom rooms. And most importantly, again, the 18 years of hands-on experience that I have growing healthcare businesses. So after I cried myself to sleep in Tennessee, I knew that something had to change. So I took everything I learned, all the past experiences, all the moments where I was crying on a bench or staying up late at night. I used all of that to grow my own virtual assistant firm, Asuncion Business Solutions. And I've spent the last 3 years perfecting how I can support home care owners like you guys and their teams. So from 2022 to 2023, we grew an average of 627%. But that wasn't beginner's luck, because in 2023 to 2024, last year, we grew again another 447%. By focusing on delegation and building a strong team while being process oriented. We scaled our company from just having a few virtual assistants to having the privilege of providing life-changing opportunities to over 160 virtual assistants. And I'm so proud to say that we serve over 80 home care agencies from Hawaii to New York. We've earned the badge of being trusted providers and approved vendors for some of the largest home care franchises in America. Why am I saying this to you guys? I'm not saying this to impress you, but to impress upon you the power of delegation. It's the single most important skill that's allowed me to achieve this level of success while also helping entrepreneurs and their teams do the same. So if you guys aren't convinced yet, let's bring in the big guns. I'm a big believer in learning is earning. And no matter how busy I get, I always dedicate time to reading several books a month. And today I want to share with you some of the most influential books and the key lessons that have changed my mind and mindset about business and how I interact with my team. So if you guys have Audible, if you're a physical book person, these are some books that I would recommend. So the 80-20 principle by Richard Cox says that, backed by studies, I mean, he did decades and decades of studies. He said that an astonishing 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. If you guys think about this, like with your sales, with your marketing, your referrals, most of your referrals come from your A accounts. So maybe 1 to 5, 6 different accounts that are really pumping all that business into your account, into your business, right? But the problem is that most teams and entrepreneurs, we waste our time on the 80% that does not move the needle, right? So this book will help you realize what is your 20%? What is the 20% that you do really, really, really well that requires your specific skills and experience? And it forces us, it encourages us to say, okay, the other 80% needs to be delegated, right? So as the owner, for example, especially for a new company, what is your 20%? It's cash flow. Revenue generating activities is your 20%. Your top team, your top leadership, what is their 20%? And how can we delegate the other 80% that will allow them to focus on the 20%? Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, you guys, is such an impactful book, because he says that you don't just hire people to get tasks off your plate, you hire them to buy back your time. Because again, time is your most valuable asset, so we have to outsource low value tasks. Because as owners, we're no longer paid to do things, but hire smart doers, right? The E-Myth Revisited, classic business book, it says that most small businesses owners get stuck working in their business instead of on it. Who's focused on strategic growth if you're stuck putting out fires every single day? He says to grow your company, you need systems and processes and teams to run your business without you being involved in every single detail, right? That's why we're partnering with Augusta. It's all about processes and people. Basically, delegation isn't just helpful, it's essential to building a business that doesn't rely on you 24/7. The goal is to build a company that runs better with or without you. And by embracing the art of delegation, you can not only scale your business, but reclaim some of your time. I mean, how many of us would love to just have dinner with our spouses uninterrupted, right? How many of us would love to go watch our kids play soccer or volleyball or softball and not have to be on our phones trying to fill a last minute shift? Or just spending time with our friends and have brunch without having to excuse ourselves every single 10 minutes because we're answering an email. Also, delegation, it can reduce burnout. So if you're an operations manager, an HR manager, a recruiter on this webinar, why do we feel like we're getting burnt out, right? It's because we're trying to do everything all the time. Delegation is a way for us to create a company that thrives with or without us being tied down. So another thing is that you notice that millionaires and billionaires, they have libraries in their homes, because all it takes is one good idea to change everything. And I'd love to share with you guys one of those ideas of the buyback loop of audit, transfer, fill. This idea has allowed me to level up again and again and again in my business. And so when I started my business, Ascension Business Solution, back in 2022, and to be honest, a lot of my adult career, I had this GSD mentality. It's called get shit done. That means I'm taking on everything myself, right? Does this sound familiar? It might be you, or it might be someone on your team. Someone that's always saying, I'm overwhelmed. I can't meet these deadlines. I can't meet my KPIs because there's just too much all at once. And what do I prioritize? So let me tell you why that mindset has to shift, right? Why wearing this, I'm super busy all the time, you cannot wear that as a badge of honor. So once I proved that using virtual assistants for home care was a hit, I got buried in emails, nonstop meetings. I had to do social media, recruiting, onboarding, and my company's growth stalled because, again, I was too busy doing everything instead of building systems and teams. We're going to hear that a lot, systems and teams. I realized that I wasn't running a business. My business was running me. And the lack of streamlined processes made me the bottleneck. My team couldn't do things that they needed to do because I had to give answers, strategy, solution, all of it. But here's how I turned it around. I implemented the buyback loop of audit, transfer, fill. I started by auditing my time. So some of you guys say, well, Regina, how do I even delegate, right? Excuse me. You start by auditing your time and identifying which tasks can be delegated. For all the control freaks out there, please use this time to do this, and I'll show you how. Then you hire key roles to take ownership of those tasks. I effectively replace myself every 3 to 6 months. So for example, I hired an first thing I got off my plate was admin. I'm not in my inbox every day. I'm not managing my calendar every day. So first things first, if you're not hiring an assistant, you are an assistant. And that's all you're able to be unless you implement this buyback loop. Then I hired an operations manager. She changed everything about my company. She trained my virtual assistants how to build SOPs, standard operating procedures, for our clients. Having SOPs, you guys, is so important because you cannot be working from memory, right? So having SOPs ensures consistency all the time. Then she implemented systems for accountability and transparency. Like, we send our clients end of day reports every single day, no matter what. So they can always see the value that we bring to the table. Then I hired a success manager, who handled onboarding. I didn't really like onboarding. So that's another thing you guys have to decide. Why did you get into home care? Did you get into home care because you love doing payroll and invoicing? Probably not, right? So that's a good indicator of something you have to delegate. And it took up way too much of my time. Then we hire a recruiter. They hired better and faster, and an HR manager who focused on creating these really top-notch training programs for each of the roles that my VAs filled. So, but here's the key. Each time I hired someone, it freed up my time as the owner, allowing me to focus on strategic growth. Again, my 20%. Initiatives like building power ships with people like Jen, right? getting Asuncion Business Solution to be recognized as one of the best home care specific virtual assistant firms in the country. I want to expand into every single state. I want to expand into new continents like the UK, well, countries. I want to get into Australia. I'm talking to Canada. But every time I transferred a task to someone who could do it better, faster, and with more passion, I filled up my time with higher value activities that can drive revenue and filled me with joy. So now you might be wondering, how does this apply to me? Right? Again, as the owner or as the top management, do you know what your 20% is? What are the tasks that are holding you back from your 20%? And again, if you're spending 80% of your time, 100% of your time putting out fires, managing day-to-day operations, or handling tasks that someone else could do, then how much time are you dedicated to growing your revenue, growing your agency, right? So if you want to reclaim your time and scale your agency, success starts with intentionality. And here's a really clear roadmap that you guys can follow to reclaim your time. Empower your team and focus on activities that drive growth. If you guys ever wanted, I actually have a workbook for this that we've kind of put in into this presentation, but if you wanted the full workbook, I could send it to you guys. It has links to books, links to webinars, which podcasts would be helpful. But anyways, so you have to start by calculating your hourly value. Again, your time is your most valuable resource. So we have to determine how much it's actually worth. And this is how you do it. You take your annual income goal and divide it by the hours you work in a week and weeks in a year, right? So let's just say you aim to make $100,000, or let's just say you're getting paid $100,000. So you take that, divide it by 40, divided by 50, then your annual income goal, your hourly value is therefore $50 an hour, right? So when I left my corporate job, I was getting paid over $200,000. So my income goal is no less than $200,000. Then my hourly value is therefore $100. So, but you've got to ask yourself, am I spending time on high value tasks that are worth $100 an hour? Or are you focusing on low value tasks that you could easily delegate for $15 an hour? Are your top paid employees, the ones you're paying $100,000 to, are they focusing on high impact work? Or are they stuck on some things that can be outsourced for much less, right? So one time I had a conversation with a VP of sales and the owner, and we're talking about strategic initiatives that we can do together. And she said, Regina, I can't focus on that right now. I was like, why? And she said, well, I'm too busy creating reels for Instagram. I said, well, is that what you're paying a VP salary for? Another practical example, you guys, for delegation, I don't like scrubbing my toilets. I don't like folding laundry. I'll do my laundry, but I won't fold it. So here's what I did. I pay a company $210 a month to handle this for me. If my hourly value is $100, compare that to the $26 per hour, and it's a no-brainer. I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? And they send 2 girls and they clean my house for 4 hours. So I get 8 hours back of my time. And I can spend that time doing things that actually I love doing. Sometimes I have to pretend that I love to play pickleball with my husband. I have to do those things. It gives me a little bit of joy, but it gives him a lot of joy. I like to go to boozy brunches with my girlfriends on the weekends. I like to go shopping and walk around for hours on end. Those are the things that I like to do. So again, you guys, you can't know, you have to know what your hourly value is, right? Then you have to audit your time. So the people on your team that are like, I am so overwhelmed, have them do this practice or this exercise. Use this table at least Monday through Wednesday, right? This is something that they have to commit to, and have them list out every single thing that they're doing. Then cross-reference it with your hourly value or their hourly value. And you can easily see if this is something you can delegate or not, right? High value is the 20% activities that drive growth and require your personal expertise. Low value, things that aren't always necessary, but has to get done, like these time sucks, right? Then transfer it. Who can handle this? Sometimes it can be handled by automation, like using Augusta, right? Putting systems into place, working smarter, not harder. But if you have to transfer it from your plate to another, you can transfer it two different ways. Also, hiring internally. This is ideal for roles that require close collaboration, internal knowledge, industry-specific knowledge. These are perfect for roles like operations, your operations manager, your care coordinators, your sales team. Those are things you cannot outsource. But outsourcing is another option, and it's one of the fastest growing trends in home care, specifically because it's cost effective and it's a very scalable solution, right? But then you have to be able to trust who you're sharing the load with, right? This is your baby. You poured your heart, sweat, blood, and tears into your business. And so you want to know, if I give you my baby, please do not drop my baby on its head, because you are kicked out and you're never allowed in my house again. But trusting people that have done this for years and years on end, like Ascension, is a great solution. It also helps you bypass very costly salaries. It can reduce tax burdens, save on benefits. And then once you've picked someone, it doesn't matter if it's an in-house hire or an outsourced person. How do you empower your team, right? Again, there might be some control freaks in here that are saying, Regina, I can't trust them. I can't trust them. No one's going to do it like I can do it, right? But you have to let go. You have to empower your team to solve problems and hold them accountable for doing so. So one of the biggest things that I learned recently is what we call the 1-3-1 rule. And this is amazing. You guys, if there's something you take home and implement immediately, try the 1-3-1. Basically, when your VA or your in-house team says, Regina, I have a problem, what I do is I give it back to them. They try to give me a problem, I give it back to them with some guidance. I say, did you do your 1-3-1 yet? And they say, no. And I said, okay, go back, schedule some time on my calendar, and I'm looking forward to the solution that you come up with. So the 1 says, you have to clearly identify what the one problem is, because a problem properly identified is half solved, right? It matters how we frame the problem. Then ask them for 3 solutions. Have them present to you 3 viable solutions to solve the problem. This builds their resourcefulness and critical thinking skills. Then have them give you their number 1 recommendation. Have them choose and explain the best options based on their research. And more often than not, they'll be able to discover the solutions themselves. You're pushing the problem down to your frontline workers because they actually have the most context, right? And you're building leaders, not just, people that want to give you all the problems. So 131. Then have them create and present to you SOPs. The standard operating procedures, again, you guys, this is so important to systematize and streamline how you do things, right? When they are presenting to you, record it. You can use Zoom to record things. You can use another application called Loom, Loom, L as in love, Loom. Have them present it to you using Augusta, using Swell Sky, using Indeed, or whatever different platforms that they're using, and attach that recording to the standard operating procedure, right? Have them, the SOPs need to look like children's book, lots of pictures, little arrows, circle this, highlight that. It's really like how to get from start A to start B. Then, you can implement end of day reports, right? Our virtual assistants send you guys end of day reports every single day. End of week reports. How many shifts did you fill? What did you do to fill a shift? If we do on call, how many calls did you get? How many outbound calls did you get? All these different things. How many intake calls? How did you process these leads? Everything, systems of accountability. This is the last one, you guys. Manage your expectations is so, so, so important. So a lot of you guys that are like, I can't let go of this. I'm the only one that can do it. No, you're not. You can teach someone. And again, you had them do the 131. They've created and presented your SOPs. They have end of day reports. Then you can say, how I manage my expectations, I say, if you can do it 80%, that's good enough for me. We can get them to 100% eventually, but in the beginning, if you can do it 80% of the time, that's great. Because if my success manager does it 80% of the time, which gives me weeks back, that's 100% better every single time. If someone can manage my inbox 80% the way I would do it, which allows me to have dinners with my husband, that's 100% better. So manage your expectations when you're delegating. This is a really important one, is identifying and avoiding the whirlwind. What is the whirlwind? It's this endless cycle of low value tasks that pull you away from strategic growth, right? It's getting dragged into countless meetings, having to last minute screen a flood of caregivers, coming into work exhausted every day because you were on call every holiday, every weekend, every single night, right? And the problem is sometimes we are the ones that willfully say, I'll do that because it's just going to be faster if I do it. But again, you hired a team. You've transferred it. You've empowered them. You've shown them. They've shown you that they can trust you. Don't take your baby back all the time. First chance you can get. Like, don't say, you know what, I'll just do it. And then all of a sudden 4 hours go by in a blink of an eye because you're so focused on that. So avoid the whirlwind. Have the discipline to set back and trust your team. Lean on the team that you've put in place and stay focused on your 20%. I have time blocks in my calendar that's 20%. That's my 20%, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours a day, time block for me, because I've placed team, I've empowered my team, right? I even ask my team to have time block for their 20%. So that way they don't have any excuses and say, hey, how come you haven't done SEO? How come you haven't improved our website? How come you haven't hired better, faster? Well, I'm too busy. No, we talked about this. I'm giving you time. I'm making time on your calendar for you to focus on 20%. Sometimes people don't want to focus on the 20% because the 20% is hard. It's like the hardest problems that they've encountered, right? But you're kind of forcing them, like, look, I'm paying you buku bucks to do this, right? And then You have to audit, transfer, fill your time with important things, tackling these back burner projects. It's time to implement Augusta, right? It's time to learn how to use Augusta to its fullest functionality. It's time to build power partnerships. It's time for me as the owner to get my own A accounts, my own rehabs, social workers, wellness directors, attending industry conferences. You guys don't understand. I go to these conferences 16 times a year. And how many times I see people run out of a conference that they paid thousands of dollars for because they have to pick up a call. Or even worse, they're on their phones the whole time or on their computer the whole time. So they're not even able to absorb what these people are saying, and they're not able to stay ahead of trends and regulations, right? Expanding your services, developing specialized care. What makes you different than the 30 other home care agencies? Maybe you need a dementia program. Maybe you need a post-rehab acute program, right? Who's working on your brand and your culture? And then this is my favorite, investing in yourself as a leader by mastering a new skill like presenting, public speaking, how to motivate unmotivated people. Those are leadership skills. So here's my link, you guys. If you guys wanted to learn more about virtual assistants and how to leverage them in 2025, here's my information. And I'll pass it back to, I'll send this in the chat as well, but I'll pass it back to Jen.
Thank you so much, Regina. That was really, really great. And I think I think the themes here tie into what Augusta does like so perfectly. Because as you said at the top of the call, everything about making your business efficient and grow faster and scale more easily, it's about people and process. There's a lot of different ways to make that happen, but the people that you surround yourself with and the processes that you're using are going to make a big difference. So it's important to evaluate them and understand what the opportunities are. So thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A. And in the meantime, I'm going to share just a kind of on the as we advertised on the AI recruitment side of things, where what you should expect basically out of the systems that you're using. So let me get my correct screen up here. 1 second. Jeez, my screen just managed to not cooperate with me for a minute here. Okay. It's So hopefully that comes up for you now. If you haven't seen Augusta's information before, I see a lot of familiar faces on the participants list, so I won't spend too long on this. But basically what Augusta does is it helps you find and interview the best possible people who can actually help you grow the company. Basically, we make your recruiting process easier and help you have more high quality conversations. Also, we have your hiring funnel kind of like all figured out, which is leaning directly into the process side of things. But similar to what Regina shared at the beginning, I wanted to talk just for 1 minute about why Augusta is talking about this at all and why like we're credentialed to do so, basically. Like what's the background that we're bringing to the table that is making this information trustworthy to you. So the first is that and this is true of my team as well. I've personally experienced pulling a double. I was a caregiver and know how painful and impactful it is when you have the right people on the team, basically. Since then, scaled 2 different software companies from near zero to over 10 million in ARR. So I have experience building a team, and same thing with my business partners as well. bring similar backgrounds to the table. So in the last 24 months, we've scaled from 0 to 150, over 150 different home care organizations and enterprises in North America. And again, very similar to Regina, that's not necessarily to impress you, but it's literally to demonstrate the use of people and process in business to grow, basically. And that we've been doing this ourselves, and want to share what we've done. Then last but not least, Augusta's application of artificial intelligence and an expert AI system is novel in our industry. So there's a ton of companies out there that have done chatbots. Like that's kind of ubiquitous in the industry now, but Augusta is nothing like that. What we have done, though, is been able to collect information and data from applicants that really nobody else in the industry has gotten. And we're doing it at scale. So we've had over 500,000 applicants through our platform just in the last 24 months. And we are able to gather statistically significant, reliable data on who's in the market, who's actually applying to these positions, who's getting hired, how much time it takes to keep people in your funnel. So all this important data that really is not anywhere else in the industry in a reliable format. So that's why we're here talking about this and why we're able to share this data with you, basically. So as we said, people and process, that's what it all comes down to. Whether you're using Augusta or not using Augusta, any recruitment system that you're using, especially AI-driven recruitment systems, the whole purpose of them is to make people efficient. If anybody has tried ChatGPT, you know that it's not always right. Like, you know it, right? Like, it comes up with weird stuff. So, but the whole point I'm trying to make here, if you take nothing else away from Augusta's kind of portion of the presentation today, it's that AI recruitment is designed to make people efficient, not replace people. And it's designed to do some of the exact same things that Regina talked about so nicely, which is working at the top of your skill set. Like Regina talked about with when you are delegating and you're doing that great work of making time to do the 20% that's going to affect the 80% of your business, that is when you and anybody on your team is working at the top of their skill set, right? Like they're doing the hardest things that they are capable of doing. And that's where you want to keep them because that is what affects 80% of your business. So as I said, if you take nothing else away, hopefully that is it, that if you're using any systems at all that are AI driven or recruitment systems, they should make you efficient and help you do the things that are hardest in your job that need your personal and very intelligent skill set on them. The reason why we know that that is the case is because basically all of our clients, they have an in-house recruiter. So the tools that we have, they empower the people who are actually doing the hard, personal, finessed recruiting work. And we know it works because our customers are 2,200% more likely to hire somebody that has been qualified by our software compared to those who have been disqualified. So if it's a good AI system, you will have data to prove that it actually made your team more efficient. So that's just one example of how Augusta does that. And kind of on a similar note, we know that our customers schedule and complete twice as many interviews as compared to before Augusta. So again, it's the process. Any system that you're using should be able to give you this type of information where you can demonstrate that the process that you're using and the system that you're using has empowered your team. And you can see that with data, right? That you're hiring more people, that you're doing more interviews, that the people that you're spending time with are actually the qualified candidates, for example. So let me know if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Couple more data points here. The other important thing to think about when you're evaluating the systems that you're using, the processes that you're using, is they should be able to tell you with some degree of accuracy why you're not hiring the way you want to, why your outcomes aren't what you want them to be. So that way you can then put in the right people, the right resources to fix it, basically. So if you're using a good system, you should be able to get this type of information out of it. The first is that the first bullet point here, that is one of the main problems that happens at a home care agency across North America today, and has a solution, or has at least a couple of different solutions to it, is that it's only, this is going to blow some people's minds out there. It is only 34% of over 500,000 applicants just to home care agencies that meet the basic qualifications for an interview. So if you get 400 applicants, or look, 300 applicants a month, only a third of them are actually worth your time. It's like, wow, right? If you haven't seen that before, I mean, you may have experienced it where you call a whole bunch of applicants, or your recruiter calls a whole bunch of applicants and they're like, well, nobody picked up the phone, they ghosted me, all of this type of stuff. But it's actually because most of them weren't qualified to begin with, essentially. So what's really important about knowing this is that by volume, that is the most significant drop off in every home care agency's hiring funnel. So if you, like I said, it's only a third of your applicants that are going to be qualified. So that means 2/3 of the people who applied to your company are the biggest volume in your hiring funnel, and thus you can learn a lot from those people, because that's, if you make one change to who is qualified or to the quality of candidates that are coming into your funnel, that will have massive ramifications down the rest of the steps of your funnel, right? So if you're working with a really great platform for recruiting, you should be able to know why applicants have been disqualified. So that way you can then decide what to do about it. For instance, if most of your applicants are disqualified because they only want to do companion care, or because they're under 21 or something, or because they don't live in your service area. Each of those things has a specific potential solution to it, either related to that data feeding back into your advertising, because it may be that you want to try different hiring channels, in like literally different ad channels, to see what the type of candidates are that you get from each of those ad channels. And or it may be whether or not, okay, so let's say you're disqualifying a lot of people because they only want to do companion care, but all of your cases are personal care. You may want to consider those people qualified and treat them differently in your interview process. Stand up a training program that's designed for people to take them from being a companion to a personal care worker. Like that type of data from the systems you use should tell you basically what you need to do next to fix each of the bottlenecks that starts occurring in your process. Then the next biggest kind of bottleneck that happens, and again, any system that you're using should be able to start to give you this information over time, is how quickly you need to be interviewing. It is I can't tell you exactly why it is at 4 days, but we know for sure that if an applicant is not able to schedule an interview within 4 business days of their application, you will not hire them. You're 100% less likely to hire them. You're 100% more likely to hire them if you do get that interview scheduled within 4 days. So that if you have the right number of qualified applicants coming through your process, then the next question is really, how do you process them quickly enough to make sure that they don't drop out of the process, right? So like I said, any system that you're using should be able to basically start to generate this type of data for you, so that way you know where you're going, where things are running off the rails, basically. So I do see some questions coming in, and I'll come back to those. I just wanted to make a couple more points, and then I will answer those. So, like I said, this is just a recap here of the different types of problems that your system should be identifying for you. And then the solutions are either people or process. So, like one of the common things that, and I kind of alluded to this, right? Optimizing your advertising channels and ad spend and managing them for the boom and bust cycles that will happen. So that has both a people and process potential solutions to it, where you need to have somebody who's looking at that data to understand, okay, wow, there are these massive fluctuations in the market of applicants. How do we manage our ad strategy for that? And or it's like how you qualify the applicants that are coming in through those ad channels, that the ones that are being effective. Maximizing the ratio of qualified applicants to booking slots. I cannot say like enough about how important this is. Because if you just think about what happens on a normal home care agency, you're just like, you get a list of applicants from Indeed, you call a bunch of them, you try and get the ones who pick up the phone on the calendar, but you only have so many spots in your calendar, right? You've got plenty of other things that you're doing. And like maximum, maybe you have 8 interview slots a day. If somebody who's not super well qualified is taking up half of those interview slots, then the actually qualified candidates that come in later have to wait longer and thus will drop out of your hiring process. So the ratio like of who is qualified to the number of interview slots you have in any given week is one of the most important things that you should be like focusing on in terms of the process that you're doing for hiring. The interview process itself is another huge opportunity that most agencies they've tried a lot of different things but haven't been able to like hit the nail on the head about it. The key that we've seen in all of our data is basically that skip steps whenever possible when you're interviewing. And that's going to make a huge difference. There's a lot of different ways to do that. Augusta has a recommended way of doing that, but like the high level is skip steps, basically. Move people straight from a Zoom interview to an orientation. I know that might sound scary. Move people straight from applying to an in-person interview and be prepared to cancel interviews when you have to, if somebody turns out not to be qualified. So like when I say skipping steps, it can be a big change for the agency to go through those types of things, but guaranteed skipping steps will help you produce better results. The number of steps for your applicant is really, really important. So think about what they're doing when they're applying to a job. I have a screenshot that I'll share that basically kind of illustrates the point. And then this is really the 20% here, this last bullet point. All of this different process work that you do and the systems that you build and stand up for your team, all of it is in service of the need to spend more time on the real recruitment work. Basically, that's the 20% that's going to drive the 80% when it comes to recruiting. This is the stuff that where no AI should be trying to do for you, which is like build real relationships, qualify people on like the things that really matter, whether or not they're going to be a long-term fit with your organization. Do they have a heart for this work? You know, you like whoever's doing the interviews with caregivers, they should be making the candidates really excited. It's sales, basically. Like at that point, like that's the hardest work of recruiting is building those like really human relationships and doing it in a way that's going to be lasting for your company and for the applicant and help the applicant, whether they're with your company or not with your company. But anyway, so all of these processes is really in service of doing that one thing, of spending time with the people who are actually going to make a difference in your business, the caregivers that are actually qualified and really want to work with your company, essentially. So last couple things here. I know we're a little bit over time, but I know I've still got quite a few people in the room here, so I'll just finish up. Basically, when I was saying about the interview process, what's really, really important to think about as you're thinking about what processes and what systems you need is how applicants are treated at the very top of the funnel. The applicant experience today, for the most part, is that they get bombarded with job offers. They get huge volumes of emails and text messages from job boards and all different types of services out there. So skipping steps for the actual applicant themselves is really, really important. And just know that most people are not reading your job description. It's part of contributing to why you call these applicants and so few of them pick up the phone, or they say, which agency was this, when you do get them on the phone. So whether you're using Augusta or not using Augusta, finding a different way to qualify them is really, really important. Because what I see a lot of people do on job boards is they start to get really, really specific with their job ads. And that is actually closing your funnel at the top point when it should be the widest, basically. So you need to qualify applicants further down the funnel, but don't do it at the advertising stage, basically. Last but not least, this is about that most important aspect that I mentioned, maximizing the ratio of qualified applicants to booking slots. What we know from our very unique data set is that 53% of applicants do not live in anywhere within 15 miles of your service area. So they are applying to your agency because the job board enabled them to do so. They didn't read the job description, but they applied anyway. So you're getting tons of applicants already that do not live anywhere where you're going to hire them. But we know for sure that you are actually hiring people that do live within 15 miles of your service area. 71% of hired caregivers live in a certain like 15-mile radius of, depending on what your service area is. So making sure that these people are not taking up your time is like incredibly important, because as I said before, what's going to happen is these applicants, they take up the interview slots from the qualified applicants. And thus the qualified applicants do not get in to actually meet with your business before that 4 days is up. So I can't impress upon you enough how important it is to not spend time on those applicants. And that's it. That's all I got today about Augusta and what kind of things you should be looking for in your recruitment system and what type of data it should be sharing with you. I just want to say thank you again so much to Regina. This was a really, really great presentation. I love the stories that you shared. I think it's so, so relatable for like everybody who's tried to run a business or tried to own their position, whatever their job role is. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope you get in touch after this. And I'm sorry if I didn't answer your questions. I'm going to follow up with you after. That we get after this presentation. So
Thanks, you guys.
thanks.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Take care, everybody.